I don't think 100 basis points is going to happen, honestly. I probably another 75. But, in the grand scheme of things, what does it really matter anyway? What are they trying to do? They're selling people an epic lie. I think it's the biggest lie or deceptive management policy regarding inflation in the history of the freaking world here. They're trying to convince people, it's insane to me. They're trying to convince people that by nudging the federal funds rate, incrementally, it's really going to help inflation. We're going to be fantastic. It's going to be great for everybody. How about no? All this is doing is guaranteeing inflation to continue to surge higher. They know it, and I think anyone with a functioning brain cell, just one, realizes that's the same story here. But it's not going to change here. The current environment is so twisted and so upside down. It's very difficult to make heads or tails of what's going on. But what we do realize, I think we should all know, is central banks are not done. They're going to continue to inflate. They're going out of their way to create more inflation. They're strangling to death an entire class of people. Have been pushing this narrative now for I don't know how many years. And it's in our face. It's going on right now. It's going to get worse, and people need to prepare for a worst case scenario. The global economy is in free fall, and the action of central banks proves it. Look at what they're doing. The European Central Bank now with unlimited bond buying. You got the Federal Reserve with some kind of backdoor program here to buy all the debt, and that's what their goal is, to own it all. That's the goal of central banks in aggregate, is to continue to buy assets with their own product that they just magically create out of thin air. So that's the scenario. That's where we stand right now. We have a managed market. We have central banks in here trying to control the yield curve, continuing to inflate global debt on an unprecedented scale here. And then you have the propaganda ministry, the mainstream media, playing the game, reading their scripts out here, trying to convince people that what they're seeing with their own eyes isn't real. This is a no-brainer here. We've had central banks here for now well over a decade doing nothing but inflate, creating cash out of thin air, buying assets with it. It was only a matter of time here before all of this money creation was going to present the current issues that we have. It's economics 101. It's all of these extra bills existing in either digital or physical form here, finally chasing the same amount of goods. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this stuff out. And their own numbers are just all nonsense anyway. I think everyone realizes that, the data is all fake. It's interesting. We just recently found out, this is laughable. They're saying, what was this, last week? I think it was reported that food inflation year over year is just up 10.4%. How many people are paying just 10.4% more for their food? I think it's more like, it's over 50, maybe in some cases 100% more.
Absolutely.
So it's just more the deception, more the distraction, but this just is so simple to understand. The goal here of central banks is to foster in a new system, period, the end. And how they're doing this is by strangling people to death via surging inflation. That's why they continue to go out of their way to create more of it. And what's going to happen? At one point, people are going to say, I've had enough. What did we also find out recently? 75% of middle income, by their own data, 75% of middle income earners here in the United States, they can't make it anymore. And you got a stock market that has been rallying recently off the continuing bad economic news. It's astonishing to see. Nothing makes sense. If you really sit back and understand what's happening, then it will make sense to you. The system is designed seriously to destroy an entire class of people, create more inflation, push wealth up to the 1%ers, and then a new system is going to be instituted. It's all about control. They're trying to make people dependent on the system. More people that become dependent on the system makes the system stronger. So what they're doing here, and I've outlined this, I don't know, for several years, is trying to get previous members of the middle class and force them to the lower rung of society here. What else do we know? I mean, by their own numbers here, we'll use their own numbers. The savings rate is now negative. We have people now here, personal debt, household debt, consumer debt continuing to skyrocket with no end in sight. And what they're trying to sell people is a very interesting thing. They're trying to tell people that swelling debt, either on a micro level, which is the individual, or on a macro scale globally, is growth. They're trying to twist this into some kind of another mind-bending scheme that inflating global debt is inflating global growth. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. We know for a fact, again by their own numbers, that the global economy is contracting at its fastest pace ever. But again, the deceptions, the lies, the distractions, the look here, don't look here, it's going to get a lot worse. What they're trying to do, very simply, is send a signal to the market saying, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to continue to buy the debt. We're going to continue to suppress rates. So start buying here. Who knows where this can go? Look, nothing matters anymore. When you have central banks buying it all, fostering that risk-on environment, meaning pushing cash into the stock market, earnings don't matter, forward guidance doesn't matter, PE ratios don't matter, bad economic news doesn't matter. You see, what people need to understand is there's no connection between what the stock market is doing and the economy. Okay, there's a big gap here. The stock market can go up and the economy will continue to free fall here. That gap is probably going to get wider. Look, what do? We try to at least understand the dynamics that are in play, realizing that central banks are going to continue to inflate, and then take the opposite side of that trade. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be back here in the market. I've been buying heavily. I'm back in the market at this present time. So, look, just try to understand the current situation and take advantage of it. That's really what we need to do. I would argue that we're way, way worse off than a recession here right now. The economic news that they're telling us is clear on that. The fact that people are suffering and they continue to suffer moving forward here, and they continue to borrow beyond their eyeballs, dancing their way into destitution is what I've been saying recently here. They're enjoying their last hurrah. And until they go down into that lower rung of society and become slaves to the system. That's what it is. Yeah, sure. Yield curve is inverted. It's extremely inverted at this point here, but that doesn't tell me, or I don't think anyone that follows my work or who understands what's happening, anything. We realize that the economy globally is over. It's in free fall. It's not going to stop. And every mechanism you can dream about and things you can't even think about yet are going to be thrown at people in this new economic model. The new economic model is going from crisis to crisis to crisis, so they can pull more cash out of the future, whether it means, allowing central banks to continue to buy all the debt for which they can do anything they want. They have no oversight here. Whatever it might be, another disease process or another variant, they got to throw cash at that. Expanding wars, they got to throw cash at that. Now we have this bill that's going through the Senate to subsidize the semiconductor industry here, which is essentially a backdoor bailout. I think people should understand that as well. And every other mechanism possible to continue to pull cash from the future. What people don't know, what the biggest secret is, it's in everyone's face, is that that's the system. It demands that debt be fueled, added to the current situation exponentially in order to function. Without doing that, it's over. The system demands that debt be created. They're going to go after people's freedoms and liberties more so. They're going to exert a lot more control on people. And I think their end game here is to, this may sound extreme, but to reduce the population of the world. They, as central banks, they control it all. They control the monetary system. They run the economy. They run it all. The puppets that they put there as figureheads, okay, they're just there as for something to people to look towards, because they believe that they are people that are actually pulling the strings, but it has no bearing on reality whatsoever. Central banks have unified, none more so than the Fed and the European Central Bank, and they're running the entire world economy. They're running it into the ground by design. What people need to understand, at its core, the system, number one, as I said, is debt-based. It's a debt-based economic model. It must be fueled with more debt. It can't ever stop. Once we stop, we could end the system. You see my hat back here in the Fed? We could end the Federal Reserve and every central bank in a nanosecond. If we just prevented them from issuing one single dollar of more debt, just $1, the entire system would implode. That's why they got to come up with reasons to continue to pull cash from the future and sell it to the public. I mean, we just heard from the World Bank. World Bank is saying that developed nations around the world must support impoverished nations, or the global poverty issue is going to get worse. Well, I have a little clue for everyone who's listening to the global poverty issue is designed to get worse, much, much worse. And no amount of cash conjured up out of thin air being created by a central bank is going to fix the problem. The underlying issue is the debt-based economic model, and they will never let it go. Central banks have established the debt-based economic model to exert power. They have one product, central banks, and that is their ability to issue and manipulate debt. That's it. That's their only tool. You hear about Jerome Powell, for example, talking about tools in his toolbox. They have one tool. It's how they can manipulate the debt, and that's it. So